I was a shy and heavy child, and then when I went to college, I joined the kayak club, not really knowing what all that was, but it just looked like fun. And then I got into kayak racing, which turned into training, which turned into, fitness obsession, etc. And lots of fun in the outdoors and lots of kayaking. When I was 16, I went on a teen, a youth group canoe trip in the Boundary Waters canoe area. And I think that really won me over. My dad had taught canoeing, by the way, so canoeing, I wasn't a stranger to canoeing. Okay. But being able to do it with a whole bunch of teenagers and camping every night and singing and, it was fun. That pretty much turned me into an outdoors person. I am fascinated by adolescence. I mean, that's who I write for. And I think that it's a really special time because you are insecure, you are finding yourself, and yet the world is your oyster and you can try on all different kinds of identities until you do find your own path. And so that's who I write for, is teens. My dad ran youth groups. I suppose I inherited, an interest in running youth groups. I ran a summer camp for 6 years for teens, teaching them kayaking. A lot of my characters come from that. But I always wanted to be a writer from the very youngest age. So my first novel was a novel about kayaking because that was just joining my two interests. When I wrote my first novel, I was unemployed for a year and I just wanted to keep myself out of trouble. So my son was 10 years old at the time, so I decided to write a novel for him. And whether it got published or not was beside the point. So I wrote this novel for him, so of course I had male characters. And also, being a kayaker, I knew that kayaking was very much dominated by males, so I didn't think girls would read it. So my first the two characters in my first novel were boys, and then that turned into a series of 10 books. And so, of course, the boys, like the Hardy Boys, made it all the way through the series. And at that point, my literary agent told me, you have a magic 5-letter word, which is niche, and I would suggest that you stick with it. 85% of authors for teens and children are females, and they are far more likely to write The Babysitter's Club than they are to write about extreme sports. And I really think that the lack of boy books is part of the reason that boys read less than girls.
And it's not just because you found a niche that you can profitably occupy. I think you also have a heart for boys too, don't you?
I raised a boy. Mm-hmm. He's turned out okay, if I can say so. So, and yeah, I there's definitely go for it girls in all of my books. So I do sneak them in, and I know that my books are popular with girls as well as boys. It's like they say, girls like pink and blue, but boys only like blue. So I can write for boys and girls, but I think by now I've kind of got my inner 16-year-old boy figured out.
You're inner 16-year-old boy.
I really think that teenage boys, they read different things than girls do. They need more dialogue, more action, less touchy-feely stuff. And the main character needs to be somebody who is a hero in the end. I guess that's true of almost any book, but I'm just saying, you have to figure it out. And I've been told by some fellow writers, that, it should be all about voice and character and not so much about plot. Whereas I actually think that to reach boys, you need a little more plot and a little less touchy-feely character. I go into a room, I play with imaginary friends, and I get paid for it. How could life get better than that? But yeah, of course, I strive to be a little bit better with each book, and yet each book is like a a new child, you don't really know how they're going to turn out, or how difficult the birth is going to be. So I can't control my books as much as people might think that I can. The characters take control after a while. I strive to get kids to read, especially boys. That is a passion. But basically a good story will do that. And so I strive to write a good story. And I strive to not, if I have any kind of moral tale in it, it's nice and hidden, so that teenagers won't sniff it out before they enjoy the actual action.
That's so important, isn't it?
It is. My most recent book, The Parkour Club, the kids buy it because parkour is ever so cool right now. But if there's a theme of the story, and there is, it's that people with different world visions can actually get along. And so I hope that I sneak that in there, but that is not what they buy it for. It is, and that's a funny story because it was actually written from the boys' perspective the first round, and my editor made me change it to the girls' perspective because the girl was white and I'm white, and the boy is from Yemen and is Muslim, and so I'm not allowed to write a main character who is a Muslim boy.
Did that make it better?
It took 2.5 weeks, 5 hours and 30 seconds to do the changes. Not that I was counting, but in the end, I just understand it's cultural appropriation these days. It's a very hot button, and so I did what the editor said, because that's how you get books published, is you do what the editor says.
Yes.
And so, yes, that's why it has a girl as a main character, but I think the boy is almost as much a main character. I made sure he stayed in there very strongly.
Mm.
So I went to the Muslim Society in Vancouver, and I asked to work with a young person on this book. And so the woman I was referred to, Aruj Hyatt, was a youth leader for her mosque. And the first time we met, we just hit it off immediately. We were both extroverts. We both wanted this book to show that people of different cultures can get along. We both had a sense of humor. We both hugged each other. We laughed. We giggled. She did a lot. She made me change some things, and she designed the room that one of the girls was in, what she would wear. There's a session where she's trying on silk hijabs, and that we made that fun. So anyway, yeah, we had fun working together, and I feel very, very lucky to have found somebody who was so open and fun to work with. 9 publishers rejected my first novel over a period of 3 years, and then a 10th sensible publisher accepted it and wanted it to turn into a series, and so it turned into 10 books, which basically launched my career. However, I will point out that entire time I was working full-time as an editor, and so the novels were a secondary job, as well as having, a 10-year-old at home. So it wasn't easy. It was quite stressful as the books became more and more a part of my life, and I had to cut back on editing, which luckily I could do gradually, so that now I'm writing full-time. A friend of a friend referred me to an agent, and the agent took me on after reading my first novel. But like I said, even she took quite some time to find me a publisher, because what agents do is they start with the ones that are going to pay you most, and they work their way down to the ones that are going to pay you less. And so it can take time to land a publisher, and for a first novel you're likely to end up with a small publisher, so an agent's not so important for a first novel anyway. But yeah, so I've been with that agency all the way through. I don't think I know how not to write. So even when I declare a break from writing, it doesn't last very long. It lasts a couple weeks, and then I have some bee in my bonnet for a new character, a new story idea, and off I go. So yeah, writers don't need to retire. But being on Mayne Island has certainly mellowed me. We've been here for 26 years, spending more and more time now. Of course, one of my, maybe two of my novels are sort of set here. And my latest novel, which is Drone Chase, which is about teenagers taking down a bear poaching ring using their drones. That one, a guy named Ray on the island who does drone photography, he helped me a little bit with that one. So, yeah, lots of Mayne Island connections. It's important to me that my novels are authentic, and they're authentic because I do a lot of research. And I probably do a lot more research than some because I'm a former journalist. So the research is half the fun for me. And it's probably a third of the work. So I probably spend 1/3 time researching and 2/3 writing. I would like to put in a plug for our very special bookstore here on Mayne Island, which carries my books, and the library. I mean, I just love Mayne Island and the community feel for it. It's the kayaking that brought me here and the people that keeps me here. And I think it's great that we have the most enthusiastic bookstore owner in North America, and that's Gail.
Gail Noonan of Books on Mayne.
Gail Noonan, Books on Mayne.
Excellent.
You want to know how I got this?
Sure.
Okay, so the day after Boxing Day, I was playing ping pong in the garage with my husband, and he lobbed a really nasty one at me, and I had to dive to get it back, and I met the floor of the garage and broke it, but not very badly. So anyway, I thought that was a fairly valiant way to break my arm. and I think he won.
But I don't think ping pong is going to be in any of your novels, is it?
I don't think ping pong's going to be in my novels. It's not enough of an adventure sport, but it's my passion, which doesn't mean I'm any good at it. It just means that I'm... Actually, Steve and I have played ping pong for at least 1 hour every day since COVID started. So it's my sanity, my sanity secret. Yeah.
Very good.
That and going into rooms and playing with imaginary friends. I mean, you know, COVID doesn't change writers at all. They do what they've always done, which is to write by themselves.
Well, that would be a very nice point to end the interview.
Thank you for having me.